When the doubt gets loud, but answer that call. Vision ain't real till you grind that speed, so breathing deep. Then call the damn leads. Call the damn leads.
Hey, welcome back to Call the Damn Leads, the show by sales professionals for sales professionals. I'm your host, Drewbie Wilson. With more than 2 decades in sales, I've seen it, been through it, heard about it. Now I'm bringing those stories to you, my favorite people in the world, the sales community. Because let's be honest, this is the greatest job on earth. It doesn't matter where you come from, what background, what personality type. You can create an amazing life in sales. And today's guest, no stranger to the journey, I'd like to welcome my friend Alan Stern to the show. How are you, sir?
You know what, Drewbie? I was having a good day. And now that I'm here, I'm having a great day. How's that?
Boy, man, I love it. I want to jump right in.
Copy and paste one-liner. By the way, anybody in sales, feel free to recycle that. Just thank you later.
That's it, baby. Use it. And that's what we're here for, man. I want to jump right in. I want to hear your crazy sales story to start.
Crazy sales story truly was the first time that I spoke in front of an audience of 150 people and I made a low-ticket offer at $300. Blew my mind and forever changed my relationship with how I make money. I had 15 people take me up on it. And at the time, I was launching my business, which I do now full-time, alongside me selling cars. And I had never in my entire life seen a way that you can go wide exponentially in such a short period of time than making that offer on stage. So I would say that was the first one that absolutely reframed my thinking of how people get compensated.
Yeah, it's such an interesting shift when you go through that, right? When you have that first moment that you kind of break open the floodgates from the boundaries you've always had around making money. You know, you find some product or service and you're like, wait a second, I can do what now? And they're going to pay me how much? And you're like asking yourself, like, is this legal? Like, this feels very weird because all of a sudden, like, I know I'm doing a good thing and I'm really helping people, but like, this feels way too easy. And it's really not easy because like everything you have to do to get to that point is a lot of hard work. So kudos, because most people are terrified to jump on stage and speak in front of people. So let's just kind of start. How did you even end up going down that path and having that opportunity, man? Because I know you said you were selling cars at the same time. So like, how did you end up speaking on stage?
Yeah, so the short version is my professional background before I went full self-employed as a speaker and a personal branding consultant, which is what I do now. Professionally, I've owned a DJ company for about 20 years, and I sold cars for a little over 13. Unrelated fields outside of the fact that I had to get good at learning how to market at the individual level. Now, when you're selling cars, it's 100% commission only. So option A, wait for a complete stranger to walk into the dealership, and you have no idea when that's going to be. And obviously, it's not a good strategy because you are in the convincing business. Option B is you go and make some noise in the community. You attend networking events, you post on social media, and you position yourself as the memorable expert in your field. And that's the route that I did. Fast forward a little bit, what ended up happening is I had a lot of people ask me, hey, you know what, Alan, you have this really unique way about marketing. I would love to learn from you. Where everything changed, truly, and you could use this as a testimonial, was when I bought a course called Closer Memes in 2020. Are you familiar with that? Just curious.
I may or may not be familiar with that course. Yes, sir.
So the premise of this was taking memes and turning them into advertisements. And then here's what I found. The strong visual stops the scroll, and the simplicity of the message is so powerful because before somebody reads something, they scan it. So I started doing speaking engagements on how to market yourself online without spending any money. Eventually, started using that as a networking tool while I was selling cars to build this business and to land the plane on that $300 offer I made. That was the biggest speaking engagement that I did at that point in 2023. And true story, a couple nights before that presentation, I just threw one slide on the slide deck that said, Content Machine 3-day crash course, a deeper dive on everything that we went over. Here's the QR code to get it. And I didn't even have the thing made. If somebody bought it, great. If nobody bought it, great. Whatever. I figured I got 150 people captive. Why not just throw an offer out there and see who says yes? And 15 people said yes on it, which forever changed my way and my relationship with how I look at monetizing something.
I love that, man. And kudos to you for recognizing that when people start asking you these questions of, hey, how did you do that? Or, hey, can you show me how to do that? That it's kind of the universe giving you an opportunity to really step into something that you can be passionate about. And one thing I've always loved about watching your journey, Alan, because you've transparently been one of my favorite case studies and testimonials to watch on this whole process. Because I remember when we even talked about it and you're like, I don't know, man, I'm thinking maybe I want to go this path and kind of start my own thing. And bro, you did it, which is a huge, huge step to take. And it all came back from you building your brand and recognizing that if I just get people to know who I am, laugh at my content every now and then, and trust me enough to just have a conversation, you've built an amazing organic marketing process. And I think that's what so many sales professionals are missing right now, because they're all, if you're not making enough sales to have extra money to spend on marketing, then what Alan's going to talk to us about here in this organic strategies is probably going to be a game changer for you this year. So Alan, give us a little insight. You don't have to give us all of the sauce, but what are some of the important things people need to be thinking about when it comes to building that brand and kind of getting out there on social?
Yeah, and before I go there, I just want to say, really grateful for your support, man. You've been a tremendous asset in learning how to do all of this in the way. But, to oversimplify everything, I get hired all the time to talk about AI because that's one of the facets of, what I do. This AI stuff is cool, but the reality is the machine will outspeed you. It will outsmart you. It may even outskill you, but it won't outconnect you. And before people buy from a brand, they buy from a person who represents that brand based off of a connection. So the basis of everything that I go over is something called the HEAT method. It combines humor, education, adding value, and trust all into your content strategy. And what it allows you to do is enter a cold and skeptical marketplace and get a complete stranger to like you, but also respect you from a business standpoint. So the idea here is when you use humor in your marketing, it's actually not about being funny. It's about creating a connection. And the reason why is pretty simple. If we dive deep into the psychology of humor, when somebody laughs, they tend to remember what made them laugh. And in a world where we spend on average 1.7 seconds on a piece of content, before somebody reads something, they scan it. And that's the power of the meme, the simplicity. So the idea with the humor, again, is to create a connection. So if somebody needs your service down the road, keyword here, down the road, they say to themselves, you know what? I don't need Alan's service yet, but in the event that I did, he seems like the kind of person that I would enjoy working with. So I would likely give him a shot. And as a salesperson, isn't that all we want, man? Is we just want a shot. Amen. So if you look at it like this on the subject of positioning and connection, if you have one without the other, it's an uphill battle. If you are all positioning and no connection, you are in the transactional zone, where the second that somebody finds a better mousetrap or somebody that they like better, that relationship is in danger because it's transactional only. Now, if you are all connection and no positioning, you're in the friend zone. You're that person that goes to events that people like, but everybody's talking around the same time and saying, does anybody actually do business with this guy? And that stings. That's also why it is easier to turn a client into a friend than a friend into a client sometimes. So the humor, again, is about creating a connection, and then we segue into the education. If you are only humor, you're in the friend zone, and people start saying, are you a stand-up comedian, or can you actually help me? So the idea is when we use education in your marketing, we're out of the salesperson category and into the resource category. When we're in the resource category, people want to pick your brain. When they pick your brain, you have just now generated a lead, but you've done so by being able to solve a problem, because when you sell, you break rapport, but when you educate, you build it. So you put the two of those together, your audience says, this person's cool, but all jokes aside, they can actually help me. Now, that's just two out of the four. Do you want me to go a little bit deeper on the others, or should we pivot?
No, I like that. I want to leave something for them to continue to learn about, right? Because I know we're not going to be able to go into everything, but just those two alone are such a great start, because ultimately that is where every relationship is founded, in my opinion, right? When we're out in the community, we're going to a party, we're in school, we're at whatever, location, the people that make us laugh are the ones we're instantly attracted to.
Yep.
And what's so interesting about that is, as you said, it's you can almost go too far with it, which is something that I have to remind people when they're going through the closer memes course, because, it's like, oh my God, this is it. This is the secret, right? I send one and people start responding, so I'm going to send 100. And it's like, hold on there, big fella. 100 memes is overkill. Like, it might be too far. And as I loved your analogy of, are you a stand-up comedian or somebody who can genuinely help me with this? So I love how you talked about creating the balance between the two. One thing I'd be curious about is, how do people know where to draw that line?
Sure. Yeah, and there's no one-size-fits-all answer. That's the truth. It all depends, and it's all unique based off of what your brand and your preferences. Now, coming from the automotive industry, I could use a lot of humor. Why? Because almost everybody knows somebody who's had a lousy car buying experience. And if you were to go on Google and type in what percentage of the world dislikes buying a car, there's studies that were done, 87%. So I can really lean into that, and I can exaggerate it. And in this case, everything started by me making memes of bad things that happen when you buy a car without calling me first. Now, I'm well aware that coming from a not very trusted industry like the automotive world, that's a very different game plan for using humor than something like a serious nonprofit. So everything is unique depending on what your brand is. Now, I have a big personality. Not everybody does. So some people prefer the more buttoned up suit and tie look. I prefer a little bit of a blend. That way it makes me approachable. Because again, if you're all positioning and no connection, you're no longer approachable.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I've seen in some scenarios working with different clients along the way where if you're too far disconnected from them in like reality, it almost feels like they don't, I don't know how to put this, but people, they're intimidated by you. Yes. Because they read, it's like, oh my gosh, this guy has a super nice car and this fancy suit, and like, man, I don't live up to that standard, and like maybe he's judging me, and that like the other person's not thinking about you at all. But in our heads, this is how we start to go, and we disconnect from people based on that. So I think there's a lot to be said about how you show up online, offline, when you're in your personal life, when you're in your professional life, because I know for you personally, being in the DJ space, you obviously hang out in the clubs and there's a lifestyle to that. But in the corporate world, where you spend a lot of time in, the networking community and B&I groups, like, that is not always the same lifestyle that is represented during the daytime as what goes on at night. Sure. And so I think I've always seen you be able to show up authentically you, whether you're, in the club or at the B&I group. What for you were some of the things that helped you realize the importance of that? Because I've seen a lot of people that can go, they're this person here, but then you see them over there and they're completely different.
It's a great question, and I know you told me to save a little bit, but I feel like being generous today.
Come on, baby, bring it on.
That is actually the A in the HEAT method, which is focusing on adding value. Now, are you familiar with the book Ninja Selling?
I have heard it, but I've never read it.
Great book. To oversimplify everything is there's really only two ways to add value. If you really think about every single thing that us humans, we spend our money on, it falls into one of two categories. We either spend money to feel good or we spend money to solve a problem. Now, again, humor and education. Think of this for a second. We exchange money to solve problems. So if we educate our audience on how we can help them solve a problem, now we're adding value there. And if we make them laugh, we're also adding value in the feeling space. But here is how you balance everything. Your experience, regardless of what it is, you have select knowledge that not the entire world knows. And the opportunity here is when you introduce something of value to somebody, they associate that value with you. And I'm going to draw a contrast here. Me having 20 years in the DJ world, I have a massive library of music that most people have never heard of. So for me, I still DJ. It's my outlet, my creative outlet, and I record every single set that I do. And here's why. Because if somebody's jamming with the music and I go up to them and I say, hey, I appreciate you're enjoying the music today. I'm just letting you know that I recorded this. Where do you want me to text the mix to? Now I have given them something of value. Again, feel good. But when I introduce something of value, in my case, a 3-hour mix, and they listen to it, who do you think they think of? Me. Now I'm top of mind in a cool way without spending any money. Great case here. I'm talking about something called the heat method, which you again created. Your listeners who have never met me may really enjoy this. So what happens if they actually take all the tactics that I'm going over today and they execute it? Although I'm the one that led with the value, you introduce them to that. So when somebody says, hey, where did you learn about this thing called the heat method? Hey, there was this guy on the Call the Damn Leads podcast, Alan Stern, that I learned this from. So now you introduce enough things of value to all of your network, you're carving out all of these little categories of mental real estate inside their brain, whether it be memes, whether it be education-based, whether it be, in my case, I'm a huge craft beer drinker. I introduce a beer to somebody, who do you think they think of every time that they see that? So you are now top of mind in a cool way without spending any money. But the thing is, that only works if you are authentic. Free value over time is the only way to create trust. And people do business with those who they know, like, and trust. So that in essence is the heat method, and how you get a complete stranger to warm up to you over time without spending any money, and do it in a cool way by being authentic.
Man, first of all, thank you for going the distance to share that. I knew you were going to eventually, because that's just who you are as a person. So I'm totally fine with it, because I know people out there have been struggling with this process of, how do I get people to have a conversation with me? I think in sales, that is one of the first things I run into when I'm meeting people who are new. And even people who are highly experienced, who have just gotten in their own way, have gotten confused on how to have genuine conversations. They've gotten so in the rut of being transactional that it's coming across cold, which is why the heat method is so valuable, because it's authentic. It's really simple if you break it down, and it's way more fun. And when you're having fun and you're feeling good, you end up doing better in life. I don't know if that's like the case for everybody, but like most of the time, if you're feeling good and you're having fun, life is pretty awesome. And that's what this whole career is for, is to build a life that you can be proud of and have fun living and do something that brings an impact in a way that you feel good about, right? I love, Alan, how you mentioned, hey, if I introduce someone to a craft beer, every time they see it, they're going to think of me. And this is an aspect of marketing and sales that I want to touch on for a second, because too many people are missing this opportunity. If you have hobbies and interests and things that you like to do for fun that aren't sitting in a room by yourself, there's somebody else out there that has that hobby or that interest. And even if you're just sitting in a room watching anime movies or whatever, like there's probably other people out there that are into that show that you could have a conversation with online. And out of all those individuals, if you are cool and you build a genuine relationship, there stands a chance that someone somewhere out there may need your product or service that you offer. And because you're a cool person and you share similar interests, and you're not like aggressive and spammy or obnoxious about what you do and selling it to people, you're the one they're going to think of. And even if they're not the one to do business with you, the amount of referrals that you can generate by being tagged on social media as someone who's an expert in XYZ field, it's crazy. And I will say, I can remember watching Alan start posting these videos of people crashing on their bike and falling off of buildings and all sorts of crazy stuff happening, and people going on his posts and tagging, hey, John, you need to talk to Alan. Hey, Megan, go call Alan. He can get you taken. Like, I'd watch in real time every day as 2, 3, 6 people would get tagged on these posts. And now he's just got leads left and right. Now, did all of them buy from him? I'm sure not. But the opportunity was there, and the trust transfer was happening from all of these people who were watching your content. And it was so fun to see happen.
And it was fun to do. If you really think about it, all I was doing was having fun with marketing. And if you really, really think about it, what is a meme? You're learning basic graphic design. You're sourcing a picture and you're adding text. That's it. And if you're somebody like me who has had to navigate a pretty severe case of ADHD his entire life, what I've found is if something is not fun and stimulating, I'm likely not going to do it. How much more fun can it get than taking a meme and turning it into an advertisement? And when your audience finds it fun and they share it, they just pass along your business card, but they did it in a really cool way.
Amen, man. And, you know, we could nerd out on this topic for many, many hours. And someday maybe we'll get to speak on stage together and nerd out on it, which could be super fun. But I do want to respect your time because I know you're busy. And I know that this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to like how much great content you're putting out there. So how do me and the listeners come find you, follow you, check out more of your stuff?
Yeah, so I'll give you guys two options. If you want to connect on social media, just go to connectwithalanstern.com. Connect with ALANSTERN.com. Now, in the event that you're just like, hey, dude, this heat method is like really cool. I'd like to learn more about it. Would it be cool if I hook your listeners up with a free hour-long workshop of me breaking everything down and giving some examples?
I think that would be hella cool, sir.
Just go to dropsomeheat.com. Spelled exactly how it sounds. And if you want to make a big impact with your marketing on a small budget, all you got to do is drop some heat.
Man, it's almost like you've done this a time. No, Alan, I can't tell you how proud I am, how awesome it's been to build a friendship with you, to watch you start this journey and go down this path, man. So thank you for taking some time out of your day to share with our listeners.
Appreciate the opportunity, brother. Keep crushing it.
Absolutely. Listen, if you guys enjoyed the show, make sure you go follow Alan. Head to dropsomeheat.com, check out the course, go through it, learn some things, implement it in your daily strategy. Listen, it's not as difficult as you're making it. Maybe you know somebody who absolutely sucks at sales and they need a little bit, maybe they're super cold and they need some way to warm up a little bit. Send them the heat method. Send them this episode. Let them know you heard this, you thought of them, you wanted to let them know about it. You don't have to tell them they suck. Like, you got to be a real close friend to tell people they suck. But, like, you know, maybe they're acquaintances or coworkers. Send them this episode. And then maybe you have a story. Maybe you went and stepped on stage and did something crazy that you never thought was possible. Maybe you've made the transition out of working for someone to working for yourself simply by going all in on these kinds of strategies. I'd love to tell your story on the show. Head over to callthedamnleads.com/podcast. Send us all your details. Get signed up. We'd love to take a look at it. And more than anything, grab a hat, keychain, wristband, maybe a shirt, books while you're there. Support the movement. You know what we got to do. We'll pick up the phone. Call the damn leads. We'll see you guys next time.
When the doubt gets loud, but answer that call. Vision ain't real till you grind that speed, so breathing deep. Then call the damn leads. Call the damn leads.